What if some of the most dangerous criminals are not rotting in jail, but living right in the society? These are not your average criminals. They evade one of the most relentless agencies in the world, the FBI. To be on the list of the 10 most wanted, tonight, we go to the dark side to learn who they are, what they have done, and why they have not been caught all these years. It is quite hard to comprehend that you wake up every day in terror in the same neighborhood that used to be familiar to you and brought you a sense of peace is now a war zone. The air no longer brings you peace but inspires hopelessness. For Haitians, this nightmare has a name: Vitel Ome Innocent. Popularly recognized as the head of the Crez Barre gang, Innocent is not your everyday thug. He is a spirit of terror who wages a war well beyond the boundaries of the Port-au-Prince metropolitan. He has made the Crez Barre one of the most powerful and feared gangs in Haiti, with men brandishing semi-automatic weapons and trying to control the people through fear. Innocent's name not only rings a bell of terror, but can be heard in the cries of the families of thousands of people that either vanished from their homes or died as a result of the gang's wrath to instill fear in the community. It is not just that he committed numerous crimes, but the fact that each one of them is more gruesome than the other. Killing, sexual assault on women, and the use of children as mere tools to play his dangerous chess are just a few of the many. Innocent's gang feeds from human anguish, going from kidnappings, armed robberies, and even the seizure of people's property at gunpoint in the normal course of his business. However, this is not the limit of Innocent's malpractice. Vitel Ome Innocent is a key personality in Haiti's increasing gang problem and has labeled himself as a vigilante who's out to rid the country of the political elite. During an interview, he portrayed himself as someone who intervened to change a corrupt society and showed the political leaders as being the cause of Haiti's chaos, not the policies. He minimized challenging allegations that were leveled on him. He justified use of violence by blaming it on outside forces and vowed he would defend himself in court. He further justifies his inhumane act of people that were killed in the fights between him and other armed groups as human mistakes, and how humans aren't perfect, so making mistakes is only natural. On one hand, he acted as a mediator who wanted to bring people together. On the other hand, he blamed the police for starting riots and refusing negotiations. Still, that is not true. His gang's coalition has been attributed to major havoc, and through his reign over the city, he has power over places such as proximity of the U.S. Embassy. This is because his story of waging wars for peace is in sharp variance with tales of fear and insecurity his reign brought. HNP, Haitian National Police, has been frequently attacked, and some of its finest officers were killed by Crez Barre. Entire communities have been razed by Crez Barre. Innocent unleashed his fury on the neighbors of Fort Jacques, Troutière, and Dumornay, leaving destruction in his path on August 10, 2023. The attacks led to the forced displacement of more than 2,000 citizens. Of them, 229 are children. It is because of this escapade that Vitel Ome Innocent is described as the man capable of tearing apart families and shattering lives all under his instruction, and yet he cannot be arrested. But being a criminal mastermind and crime being on the hunt, he knows how to remain hidden but makes his presence felt. The weakening of local political parties, his grip on governmental power institutions in Haiti presents a chilling reminder of what happens when power falls into the wrong hands. Amid the turbulent landscape of Colombia, there exists a man that has been making the news as a great threat to society. This is Wilver Villegas Palomino, alias Carlos El Puerco, but he is no mere criminal. Villegas Palomino is one of the top leaders of ELN and is part of a group called narco-terrorism, Colombia's longest-standing guerrilla group, a man who wields power in the form of a gun and causes destruction. As its leader, the ELN has increased its activities of terrorism, attacking through bombs, assassinations, and kidnappings across the country. Villegas Palomino is notorious for leading the systematic cocaine traffic to financially sustain ELN's violence, out of delivering drugs such as cocaine leaves, spreading addiction and violence across several regions. His operations have transformed regions into strongholds of fear, where life is dictated by his gang's brutality and greed. However, it is not enough that Villegas Palomino is a drug trafficker. He is also a tactician of terror. His cartel's distribution of cocaine empire transcends the domination of Colombia for international territories, including the United States of America and Europe. In addition to the narcotics business, he controls extortion rackets that have left communities cashless and in despair for anyone who falls prey to him. Nonetheless, one can wonder about the incredible brutality of Villegas Palomino, who performed these atrocities, and about the even more incredible fact that he has never been caught. He is now on the most wanted list of the United States government with a reward of $5 million declared for his head. But as authorities close in, one thing is certain: wherever Palomino goes, destruction follows. They called her the Crypto Queen, an elegant woman sitting on a pile of money from the United States of America and looking like she was about to change the world of cryptocurrency. But Ruja Ignatova didn't just withdraw into the crypto world. She completely faded out from society after staging one of the largest fraud cases in human history. Ignatova, a Bulgarian entrepreneur with a flair for charisma, founded OneCoin, a so-called cryptocurrency that turned out to be nothing more than an elaborate pyramid scheme. Between 2014 and 2017, investors from around the world gave her an estimated $4.5 billion for what she promised as the Bitcoin killer, but all of them became captives of a well-masterminded mirage. The cryptocurrency didn't exist. It was all smoke and mirrors, held up by fake accounts, false promises, and relentless marketing. Then in 2017, Ignatova disappeared, just as the authorities got close to her. Her last documented escape to Athens started the chain of events that came to be considered as one of the most riveting cases in today's financial fraud. The question is, where could she have gone to, and who might be keeping her under their protection? Unsurprisingly, leaked emails showed her knowledge of the scam from the start, of her calling investors idiots and admitting that OneCoin does not actually mean anything. Her escape plan was to steal the money and throw the blame on other people. When the fraud process was exposed, her lover Carl Greenwood pleaded guilty to a wire fraud charge and conspiracy to money laundering, for which he received a 20 years imprisonment sentence. Ignatova was last spotted leaving Bulgaria for Greece in December 2017, where it is believed that links with the Russian mafia and Greek mob Taki has been established. Some think she may have met a tragic ending because of these connections. The other half is convinced she is living in solitude on a deserted island. News sources indicate that Ignatova possibly fled to Russia. Some of the allegations highlighted by the BBC investigative journalist are business links to ex-Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, a man known in Russia who supports Moscow. Apparently, Some firms associated with his vast offshore network are accused of acting as money laundry for OneCoin, suggesting that Ignatowa has high-profile backers who protect her. Her empire was not only economic but social as well. Her former security advisor, Frank Schneider, also fell for her honeypot and was also put under house arrest in France before becoming a vanishing man himself. Now a worldwide freeze on assets has been imposed, and what is left of Ignatowa's stolen money is in its crosshairs. But as investigators close in, one question haunts the case. How do you capture a ghost when she decided that she would no longer be seen or heard from again? A wedding is intended to be the starting point of a happy marriage, and yet Estrella Carrera experienced her wedding day as a dressed-up rehearsal of murder. Only 23 hours after reciting the words that every girl dreams of, "I do," Estrella's life was cut short as if she had signed her death sentence instead of a marriage certificate. And her husband, Arnaldo Jimenez, was no less than a grim reaper who vanished into the night after taking her soul with him. Estrella Carrera, a 26-year-old woman, was discovered having been murdered in the bath of her Burbank, Illinois home on May 13, 2012, wearing the glittering dress she had worn when attending her reception after getting married. Estrella's final moments that should have been serene and breathtaking actually took her breath away when a quarrel between newlyweds escalated and Arnaldo ended shooting her inside the black Maserati purchased by him before dawn on May 12th. Estrella was reportedly stabbed multiple times to death, her body dumped into the apartment on what should have been the happiest day of her life. Her family made the call when she did not come to pick up her children from school, a 2-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter, and what police saw when they arrived at that house on that Sunday morning was not a bride filled with happiness, but something horrible. This is a despicable act that was allegedly committed by Arnaldo Jimenez, now 37, and has made him make the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list by his escape. Amnesty has been declared for the man's capture, and up to $100,000 has been held out for anyone who can capture him alive. However, Jimenez has remained quite a slippery character and a blight on the lives of many people. With a history of violence and a criminal past, Jimenez has been traced to Mexico, possibly hiding in Santiago Pascuero, Durango, or Reynosa. His black Maserati is long gone, but is even more famous for his knack for avoiding the long arm of the law that has haunted police for over 10 years. And this is not just a story of an escaped criminal. This is a story of a murdered groom, a man who traded love for blood and made a family pay for it while trying to evade law enforcement. Sylmar is the type of neighborhood where life goes on at a steady hum. Changed on June 15, 2019, when the sound of gunfire broke the peaceful silence. In the middle of this violent unrest was yet another gang member by the name of Omar Alexander Cardenas, a suspected gang member whose name has since become synonymous with cold-blooded murder. On that faithful day, Cardenas went to the Hair Icon barbershop, where 46-year-old Jabali Dumas, who had no idea of what awaited him. Without any form of doubt or second thought, Cardenas took his weapon and fired 9 bullets. One of them hit Dumas on the head, and immediately his limp body lay motionless with face on the ground. Cardenas escaped the scene, leaving behind only confusion and horror for the people who witnessed this heinous crime. The police still do not understand whether there was a relationship between the dead man and his murderer. The CCTV footage shows Cardenas walking across the street. However, minutes later he seems to be in a rush when he makes his way back, crossing the same street again. This footage before the accident shows that perhaps Cardenas's little tour was not as innocent as it seems. Did he actually go to a supermarket? Or did he meet someone who was helping Cardenas behind the shadows? What they do know is that Cardenas is no ordinary fugitive, said to have gang connections in the San Fernando Valley. His associations with organized crime give a picture of a man fueled by brutality. In April 2020, taking into account the evidence and witnesses' statements, police searched for Cardenas and accused him of murder, but then he had disappeared without a trace. He just seemed to fade away from public life, ever to be seen again. This man escaped from the United States and is assumed that he had settled in the United States' neighboring country, Mexico, that has a large area of vast plain land. Besides, the blending of various Mexican criminal groups makes Mexico more secured for him. Cardenas has ever since been in hiding, but his ability to evade justice has kept law enforcement on edge for over a decade. Notorious, alias El Porky, is not a name muttered only in Honduras' underground. He is the mastermind of one of the most dangerous criminal groups in the world, MS-13, a man who based his management style on cutthroat and strategic cleverness. Notorious has grown to be the kingpin of MS-13 gang in Honduras, and the mastermind behind the establishment of a network of drug trafficking, violence, and terror. El Porky, based in Honduras overseas, is responsible for the transportation of huge quantities of cocaine to the United States, which is fueled by death and warfare for power. His diktat does not only cover drug traffic, but other areas as well. During his tenure, the MS-13 gang's rap sheet includes money laundering, kidnapping, and murder, with each evil deed worse than the previous one, with the intention of making people understand that he should be feared. But it is escape in 2020 that endeared him as near legendary figure of the impunity. Instead, the event turned into a rescue mission when Carrias returned to El Progreso for what was supposed to be a regular court appearance. More than 20 heavily armed men in military and anti-gang fatigues, wielding military-grade assault weapons, took over the courthouse and shot dead 5 of them, including the police. This was not only an operation of escaping from prison, but also the proclamation of his imprescriptible nature. The FBI has placed Carrias on the 10 most wanted fugitives list in 2021 and has provided a $100,000 reward. However, his trail has become lukewarm, and there is a much bigger prize at stake, $5 million reward for his capture by the U.S. government. Because of his reign of terror that ruled over the Northern Triangle, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, many people were forced to flee these areas in order to seek protection from MS-13. For the FBI and international law enforcement, hunting El Porky is not simply about retribution. It's about stopping a terrorist operation that is driving both drug and human suffering. The next on the list is Alexis Flores, a man whose actions are the complete opposite of the friendly stranger. He stands accused of one of the most heinous crimes imaginable, the kidnapping and mutilation of a 5-year-old girl known as Ariana De Jesus in Philadelphia, 2000. Now, Flores is one of the FBI 10 most wanted fugitives. The jury is looking for justice and to finally stop the nightmare that his story continues to inflict on those who remember his victim. When Flores came to Philadelphia, he adopted the identity of a homeless man using the name Carlos. Thus, the people knew him as a humble man who took their friendly gestures towards him. What a lot of people did not know is that behind this philosophical and vulnerable-looking mask, he was rotten to the core. Ariana De Jesus disappeared from her neighborhood on July 29, 2000. Then suspicion arose. Some days later, she was discovered dead in the basement of a building that was under construction. The discovery uncovered the entire degree of brutality. She was raped and murdered. Years later, after there was significant improvement in forensics, matched Flores' DNA when they were analyzed. Following his arrest on unrelated charges in Arizona in 2004, his deportation to Honduras provided a grim twist. It wasn't until his DNA was entered into the national database that the connection to Ariana's murder was established, and by then, Flores had vanished once more. Currently, the FBI is having a $100,000 reward for anyone who will apprehend Flores. They think he may have gone to Honduras, but because he is a master of disguise, it is very hard to track him. The family of Ariana de Jesus has remained without justice. The man who called himself Alexis Flores represents the type of terror lurking within that given community, the ones who takes advantage of kindness of strangers, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. His capture isn't just for the sake of closure to this case, but also putting an end to the horrors that this man is capable of in one's peaceful neighborhood. In a small, quiet town of Hanover, Maryland, the Duncan where Bharesh Kumar Patel and his wife worked turned into a horrific crime scene. Patel committed an act so heinous that it left a terrible impact on the minds of everyone who heard it, especially the couples who were firm believers of through thick and thin started to question their ideals. On April 12, 2015, at 24 years old, he killed his wife, a 21-year-old woman, in the workplace where the couple worked. The CCTV footage shows another typical day of working at Dunkin' Donuts. What their normal routine turned out to be the most brutal one for his wife, for unknown reasons. Patel is said to have brutally killed his wife, Palak, age 21, at the Dunkin' Donuts workstation in the back room. While customers were happily sipping their morning coffee, Patel attacked Palak with a kitchen knife, hitting her in the face, then stabbing her continuously until she died. Before this incident took place, investigations showed that there had been tension rising after the couple's visas expired a month earlier, with Palak begging to go back to India, something Patel vehemently rejected. That is why the details of the attack are still quite bizarre and vague, even if the general outlines of the story are well known, meaning that investigators are still trying to understand why the young man could do this to the woman he supposedly loved. On the night of the heinous crime, Patel disappeared in the darkness of the night. He was seen picking up a taxi to the railway station in New York after having checked out of a New Jersey hotel. Described as armed and extremely dangerous by the FBI, Patel's escape has launched one of the most intense and eerie manhunts in the agency's history, which creates both fear and gross questions. As an additional member of the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list, the agency offered a reward up to $250,000 for the information of his whereabouts. Despite this, Patel remains on the run, and the crime has brought a rude shock to the society. What could make a man who looked just like any other man become capable of perpetuating such violence? Was this an instinctive hatred? Was it fear that was boiling below the surface? These questions still go unanswered to this date, as Patel remains on the run, and authorities have also been left with the worry that, like most suspects, his vanishing points marks only just the tip of the iceberg. Alejandro Castillo was only 17 years old when he committed a crime that subsequently placed him in the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list. Truquan Sandy Lely was a 23-year-old woman and apparently Castillo's girlfriend. What this young woman did not realize was that the trust and the hope she placed in him was to bring her doom. The two had met each other in a Charlotte, North Carolina restaurant where they had fallen in love, and later their love turned sour, culminating in betrayal, murder, and a trial. It is believed that Castillo owed $1,000 to Sandy, and the manipulating act of love through which he decided to call her to get her son back resulted in Sandy paying for it at the cost of her life. The two agreed to meet on August 9, 2016, to find a way through which he would repay her. However, the poor Sandy could not in any way have thought that she was setting herself up for a trap. Castillo made her withdraw a huge amount of cash from an ATM. From there, he took her to a secluded wooded area just outside of Charlotte. What followed after can only be described as a nightmare. Castillo shot and killed Sandy, and then he dumped her lifeless body in a ravine, a cold, shallow grave. Her family continued to look for explanations why Castillo and his new girlfriend got away in Sandy's car and drove, crisscrossing the state borders. A few days later, Castillo dumped the car at a bus station in Arizona, leaving behind only a ghost of their flight. But by the time Sandy's parents filed a report, a criminal along with his new girlfriend fled to Mexico. The factual details surrounding the Alejandro Castillo story especially continue to shy away answers and bear only bad news. Security cameras recorded Castillo, who wore a gray shirt and black hat, entering the border of the United States and Mexico in Arizona, with his girlfriend clad in a black and white top and shorts on August 16, 2016. Castillo and his new girlfriend fled to Castillo's cousin's house, and that is when the relationship between the two started fading. When Castillo disappeared off the face of the earth, his partner in crime, who he roped into helping him murder his girlfriend, could not take the pressure anymore and consequently had turned herself in to the police. By then, however, Castillo had done enough to hide his identity from authorities, having his head shaved and cutting his hair at the sides. Castillo is believed to be hiding in Mexico, and has kept detectives and Sandy's mourning family guessing for many years. The FBI remains on the hunt for Castillo, offering up to $250,000 for information leading directly to the arrest of Alejandro Rosales Castillo. The latest entry on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitive list is Donald Eugene Fields II, a 60-year-old man who is wanted for crimes against children. Fields is described as a dangerous predator who left devastation in his wake before vanishing into the shadows. From January of 2013 to June of 2017, Fields and a co-conspirator, Theodore Ted John Sartori Sr., devised a scheme to sexually abuse a minor. According to the prosecutor's versions, Sartori gave Fields money for the victim: cars, motorcycles, cash trips, and Christmas presents. It is a story that shows not only Fields himself as a criminal, but also how he could purposefully planned and executed his crimes against the people he selected. However, that's not where Fields' crimes end. He was charged with statutory assault, statutory sodomy, child molestation, and witness tampering, among other charges filed in Missouri. When he was served with summons to appear in court in March 2022, Fields moved out of his house, and the silence was eerie. His escape led to a federal arrest warrant later that year. The FBI has a cause suspecting that Fields could be in Florida, possibly in Tampa, since he used to often visit Tampa for vacation. Central Missouri, close to his former residence in Franklin County, is also on alert. Authorities believe that he may be working odd cash-paying jobs, such as tree pruning or other casual work apart from concealing himself in a small social groups so that he cannot be easily noticed. Which is why casinos are also included on FBI's list of frequented places by Fields. The FBI has offered up to $250,000 to anyone who can assist them to arrest Fields so that justice can prevail for his victims. Fields is still out there, his whereabouts unknown, and yet his actions seem to be brought to the light of day. And where exactly is he now? Well, only the sand grains of the hourglass are aware. But one thing is certain for sure: that Eugene Fields will surely meet the consequences of his actions sooner or later. The truth does not remain hidden forever. It has a way of coming out, especially when you least expect it. That brings us to the end of today's video. From premeditated manslaughter to the worst sort of crimes against the defenseless, these are people who are a stain on society. They may run, they may hide, but the chase and the hunt is far from over. You never see evil taking a break. Justice shouldn't either.